Hello folks. So how many of you have been out there fishing with your buddies standing right next to you, reeling in fish left and right, and you can't seem to catch anything but a cold? Well, today I'm here to teach you how not to be that guy. I'm going to tell you a little bit of background information on the largemouth bass, the equipment and the techniques used to catch them when you're using spinnerbaits. Before I show you how to catch this fish, I would first like to inform you on a little background information about them. Largemouth bass are cold-blooded predators. They'll eat just about anything, from threadfin shad to bluegill. Anything that doesn't look at them as a meal for them. They want to eat things that are easy to catch. Hurt or wounded baitfish are typically the easiest thing to eat because they're easier to catch. A largemouth bass in 80-degree water metabolizes a lot faster than a bass in 40-degree water. Anywhere from 4 to 5 hours in 80 degrees, 4 to 5 days in 40 degrees. So in the wintertime, they typically eat a lot less. And people think they're harder to catch, and simply that reason being is because they eat a lot less. They want to move very slow too, and they want to use the least amount of energy over the least amount of distance for the biggest meal possible. So they don't have to eat as often, and they get the same outcome as eating little fish in the summertime. In the winter, they'll go deep, just because the water stays a little warmer, and in the summer, the deep water stays a little cooler. The surface, the air temperature around it has a lot to do with the water temperature. If it's warm out, the water is going to be warmer, and if it's cold out, the water is going to be colder. So they'll stay where the water's usually the same, and that's below the thermocline, and that's where the sun reaches when it heats it up, or the air reaches when it cools it down. Spinnerbaits are what I'm here to talk about, and that is one of the best fishing lures to catch largemouth bass. They have a lot of different characteristics, and I'm just going to talk about a few. As you can see, they come in a lot of different sizes, small to large, 1/4 ounce to 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce. And they also come in a lot of different colors. Here I have white, here I have a greenish yellow. And the reason being they come in so many different colors is because you're not going to always fish it in clear water. You might have murky or muddy or dingy water, so you're going to want to use something bright that the fish can see very easy. And that's why we have yellow, green, or Cherokees, whichever color you want to use. And when the water's clear, you want to represent the type of bait fish that it's after, and you don't want to use something too bright. You want to use dull colors like white or black, dark greens, anything that's not very bright that the fish isn't going to think that's out of its normal. It's not going to go after a fish that it doesn't think is real. So that's why I like to use a white or black, brown, green, something along that's not very vivid in color. The last thing we're going to talk about is the type of blades on them. This here is a willow leaf blade, and as you can see, it's long and slender. It has a lot of flash, and it does not vibrate very much in the water. It's used in clear water where the fish can see the flash, but they can't really feel it. Here, I have a Colorado blade. As you can see, it looks like a teardrop. It's very wide, it's short, and it has not very much flash compared to the willow leaf, but it has a lot of vibration. It's best used in dark water where the fish can't really see it, but they can feel it. The last type of blade we're going to talk about is the Indiana blade. As you can see, it's long, it's a little bit slender compared to the Colorado, and it has half as much flash as a willow leaf and half as much vibration as a Colorado. And it's the best versatile blade there is because it can be used in both types of water, and it's the perfect blade for a fisherman that is just learning how to use this type of bait. The next thing you need to know is the type of equipment used to catch them. Today we're going to talk about the type of rod, the type of reel setup, and the type of fishing line I use. I don't know as much as a lot of the people out there, as I'm very young compared to some of the guys that have been fishing with this equipment for a very long time. And there's a guy named Mike and Rick on a website called fishin.com that have been fishing with these lures for a long time, that know a lot about them, and they have some very good resources Also, the type of blades, there's a guy named Russ Bassdozer, and he has a website called bassdozer.com, and he knows everything you need to know about the blades. So if you check them out, if I haven't answered what you need to know, they will tell you. So the type of rod I have here is a 6.5 foot rod, and it's a fast action, which means just the tip bends. And the reason being is you want a good hook set when fishing with this, so your fish doesn't get off. A 6.5 foot is good. It gives you good casting distance. It's very light, and it can be fished in different conditions. The next thing we're going to talk about here is the type of fishing reel I have. And this is a baitcaster fishing reel. There's different types and sizes and different retrieve ratios. And what I have here is a 6.3 to 1. Now I know you don't know exactly what that means, but what it's saying is for every 1 inch that I turn this handle, 6.3 inches of fishing line is going to come back. And that's right in the middle of where you want to be, anywhere from 5.3 to 7.3. And the last thing we're going to talk about as my setup here is the fishing line. What I have here is fluorocarbon. It's invisible and it sinks. It's very good fishing line to use with spinnerbaits. It's fished anywhere from 8 to 14 pound test. There's two other types of fishing line, monofilament and braid, but neither one of them are really needed. You can use monofilament, although it typically floats and it has a lot of stretch, so it doesn't give you as good of a hook set. And braided fishing line is really not needed because you're not going to be fishing this around docks or trees or stumps. It has a lot of abrasion resistance, and we don't really need that because it's going to be fished in typically open water, so it's not going to need as high of a pound test as braid comes in. It's typically a lot higher, but it's the same diameter as this type of fishing line. And that's the type of gear that I fish this fishing lure with. Now the only thing to do is figure out how it works for you. You want to fish it fast, slow, on the ground, whatever. Do what you do, or whatever works for you to catch these fish. They can be fished any way. Next time you go fishing and you're sitting there catching all these fish and your friend isn't catching anything, you tell them that's why they call it fishing and not catching. Every fisherman has his day. You won't catch them all the time. Thank you.